One HogvilleNET YouTube live post-game analysis. Wow, what a doozy. Arkansas picks it up off the floor, off the deck. First win in SEC play. Dramatic finish. Arkansas builds a couple of 20-point leads in the first half, leads by 14 at the break. And the Razorbacks, on the strength of Tremont Mark's 35-point game, including a runner to beat the Buzzers. He and Wade Taylor, the known hog killer over the years, and his 41-point game, we're kind of going back and forth in this one. Really in a game where when you looked at the second half, it devolved in just a one-on-one kind of thing with those two. There were some other players that stepped up for both teams. We're going to go through that. One's probably a surprise for Hog fans at this point in Ellis. But the Razorbacks, 78-77, now 10-7 on the season, 1-3 in SEC play. You know, it's interesting. Both teams have identical records. A&M's got a better resume, though. Arkansas came in net number 113, the Aggies 41, outside the top 30, so a home win over net, anything outside top 30. Now, you know, this close to it, though, you know, in this next range, gives it Arkansas its first quad 2 win of the season. The Hogs are 1-1 in quad 2 games now, still 1-5 in quad 1. That's something Arkansas is going to have to address, but you got to start somewhere, and the Razorbacks did that tonight. This could have been an 0-4 start after Wade Taylor hit that falling down three-pointer to give the A&M its first lead of the game, at 77-76. And, you know, Arkansas staring down the barrel at 0-4. The last time a Razorback team started SEC play 0-4, it was John Pelfrey's 08-09 crew, his second season as the Razorbacks head coach 15 years ago. And that team went on to go 2-14 in league play, the worst ever mark in league play for Arkansas. That's what the Hogs were looking at. Last year, Arkansas started 1-5 in SEC play, split the first 2 games, and then had a 4-game losing streak to get to 1-5. So Arkansas avoids that tonight. 0-3 start, now 1-3, got off the schneid. Like I said, 10-7, 1-3. Aggies have the same problem record-wise. The Aggies, though, are 4-4. In quad 1 games, Arkansas 1-5. The resumes are different, but this is a good win for Arkansas. This was an A&M team picked to finish second in the SEC. A&M team that came in shorthanded. We didn't know that Henry Coleman III wasn't going to play tonight. The big man, 12 points, 8 rebounds a game. A&M almost pulls it off on the road after a big win in overtime at home against a top 10 ranked Kentucky team over the weekend. So A&M was on a bit of a roll, just in terms of, picking up that first conference win against a really good team and looking to make it 2 in a row. Someone just posted, I almost had a stroke, about had a stroke. Yeah, I mean, covering it as a journalist, it's not easy trying to keep up with everything. I have 2 stories and 2 tweets ready to go, win or lose, and I was oscillating there in those final few seconds because this is another strange game for Arkansas. When you look at the hustle plays, Arkansas was absolutely dominated in most of the hustle plays, most all of it. We're going to go through all the stats. But Arkansas had such a strong first half offensively. I don't know how good Arkansas's defense is. A&M missed a lot of open shots. I think Arkansas did have some moments defensively in stopping penetration, I guess, in that first half. You build a 20-point lead. You did that. You were up 20 a couple of times there. And you led 14 at halftime, and then A&M starts to chip away. And I thought there were a couple of times where Arkansas, in that fourth quarter, kind of turned, lead would get down to 3 points or 5 points, and Arkansas pushed it back to 10. And that was just enough cushion when A&M made its final run for Arkansas to hang on, because I don't like the freeze ball offense, the way that Eric Musselman likes to finish games last 4 minutes. I especially for this team. Now, look, Tremont Mark ends up having a career night, 35 points. We know the previous career high was in the Bahamas against North Carolina. He got hurt in that game at the very end at 34 points that night. This was a career high and a win, and he gets a runner with 1.1 seconds left getting to the basket. Little runner, floater, 10, 12 feet as his momentum's carrying him forward. That was it. Arkansas, it was a come from behind win technically, even though Arkansas led all but the final few, 7 seconds when Taylor hits that 3. Wade Taylor is a fantastic offensive player. Now, his shooting numbers aren't great. When you look at his 41 points tonight, wow, it's a career high for him as well. 13 of 32 from the field. So basically, he's basic. He's just slightly better than making 1 out of every 3 shot attempts overall from the field. He was 5 of 14 from 3, 10 of 13 at the foul line, 6 rebounds for him, 2 steals. And the other guy for the Aggies that was a problem for Arkansas all night was Garcia, a double-double for him, 10 points, 12 rebounds. I thought he could have fouled out in the first half, getting some of those offensive rebounds. Dude plows into folks to clear space. Not a lot of whistles on him. There was a lot of whistles tonight. Arkansas benefited from a lot of them. I thought there were some strange calls that I thought kind of flipped A&M's way, maybe when potentially they shouldn't have. But Arkansas got to the line a lot, and Arkansas got bailed out in some of that late stagnant offense and was able to get to the free throw line, where for the most part the Hogs were really good. We're going to go through everything statistically and kind of go through the stages of it. We've talked about again, welcome HogvilleNet YouTube Live. Want to thank my sponsors, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. Obviously, I'm not at Bud Walton Arena tonight. Didn't feel like trying to beat these roads and through these conditions. So the roads might have been passable, might have been just fine to do it, but late game, didn't want to risk it because I always come back to Little Rock same on game nights. Get in usually around 3 a.m. I just didn't want to deal with any stretches of bad road. But let's move past that and really get into this game. I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. There we go. Get centered here a little bit better. Once again, Arkansas Razorbacks 78-77. Mark with the dagger, 35 points for Tremont, 8 of 15 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, and then 17 of 22 at the foul line. And it was just one of those games again where I don't think the best recipe for Arkansas to win games is to have one guy just kind of playing one on everybody else. But that's what A&M was relying on tonight. So you had 2 teams doing it. And Tremont Mark, even though Mark didn't score as much, he took 17 fewer shots to score 6 fewer points than Taylor. Much more efficient and really the best player on the court tonight. In fact, Mark had a couple of block shots. He had 3 total. I'm going to get into this. Arkansas with 9 block shots. That's the one hustle category Arkansas won tonight, 9-3. A&M is not really a rim protection kind of team. Not very good blocking shots. We know Arkansas is. Arkansas actually exceeded its season average in blocks, and some of them were big down the stretch. A couple of them, Mark getting blocks on Taylor, who otherwise might have gotten buckets on one or both of those shot attempts. I'm not sure who Mark's third. He had 3 blocks. If he got all 3 against Taylor, I might have missed one. But statistically, he finished with 3 tonight. He also had 5 rebounds. He did have 3 turnovers on what was really overall a low turnover night for both teams, but especially this A&M squad. Arkansas had 4 turnovers in each half. That's not terrible. Only 8 in the game, but A&M only 2 turnovers. So you talk about the hustle stats. A&M wins steals 5-1. A&M 47-35 plus 12 on the glass overall. But on the offensive glass, 19-3 plus 16 also in second chance points. So cashing those offensive rebounds in, 25-9. I mentioned turnovers plus 6 for the Aggies, 8-2, plus 4 in steals, 5-1. Fast break plus 12, 16-4 for the Aggies. Points in the paint plus 6 for A&M, 28-22. If you really look at it, other than blocks, that's a hustle stat, 9-3. I thought that was the one hustle stat where in a lot of games it doesn't matter a whole lot that Arkansas is racking up some blocks because they're so bad at defending at the rim and players kind of having their way scoring around the basket. And we saw some of that with the offensive rebounds and second chance points. And of course, Wade Taylor sometimes getting free runs to the rim. But the Aggies didn't have, when you look at it collectively, outside of Taylor, there was a lot of guys that missed layups. Now, was that good Arkansas defense? Or is that just A&M just being the worst field goal shooting team in the SEC? Probably more about the Aggies, not being effective, and maybe some Arkansas, give Arkansas some credit there. But looking at the field goal shooting, really poor for both teams. But Arkansas had an advantage here. Arkansas had not had an advantage in shooting in SEC play. Arkansas had a huge advantage at halftime from the field. And in a second half where both teams stunk it up shooting the ball, I thought Arkansas's offense got stagnant. But at the same time, the Hogs had such a cushion offensively in that first half and that 14-point lead. But when you look at it, Arkansas finishes 20 of 51, 39.2% from the field. A&M, even worse, 24 of 74. The Aggies got 74 shots on goal. That's actually 10 more shots per game than Arkansas was giving up. And Arkansas was one of the worst, bottom barrel in Division One and giving up field goal attempts because it can't get turnovers and it can't, finish enough defensive possessions with rebounds. Gives up a ton of offensive rebounds. But the Aggies, 24 of 74, 32.4%. So Arkansas almost 7 percentage points better there from the field overall. The Hogs were better from three, 7 of 19 for 36.5%. That's decent. That is a decent percentage. And I don't think Arkansas settled for too many threes. I thought Arkansas did a good job of pressuring the paint in the rim tonight, especially Tremont Mark. We're going to talk about Ellis. He's I don't even know if he's an unsung hero. He's just a guy that really stepped up tonight to help Arkansas. But 36.5% from 3 on 7 and 19. A&M 6 of 29 for 22. I can't even read my writing here. I think that's right, just over 20%, 20.7%. The Aggies were a little better in the second half. Arkansas was not good shooting in the second half. 6 of 25 from the field, 24%. So the Hogs were over 53% in the first half. 2 of 9 from 3, 22% in the second half. The Hogs were 5 of 10 at halftime, 50%. Arkansas was 13 of 14 at the foul line in the first half, 92.9%. This is also where Arkansas won the game. Arkansas was the better shooting team tonight overall, the better shooting team from three, and the better shooting team from the foul line. Arkansas finishes this game 31 of 40 at the free throw line. That's 77.5%. That is outstanding. Not as good in the second half. The Hogs opened the second half 2 of 7 from the foul line, kind of allowed A&M to get back into the game. Then it was kind of a grind after that, and a lot of fouls and a lot of free throws. But Arkansas picked it up from there. Now, Tremont Mark did have a couple of poor trips in the closing minute, going 1 of 2 a couple of times from the foul line, last couple of minutes maybe. That kind of continued to give A&M opportunities when you go 2 of 4 in that stretch. But finishing 31 of 40 for 77.5%, that is a strong night for a team that gets there in great volume. You finish well above what your average was anyway as an elite free throw attempts team, and your efficiency was way above where you are on the season overall. In Arkansas in the second half, 18 of 26 at the foul line, only 69.2%. That helps explain why A&M was able to take a lead. The Aggies, 23 of 33, 69.7%. This is a team that was also a very good team creating free throw attempts. Not a good shooting team from the field, but good at getting to the foul line. A lot of that's the blue-collar stuff. When you're hitting the offensive glass, you're getting fouled. It's a gritty, physical team, and so they get a lot of whistles that go their way. Saw that tonight. A&M does a really good job of baiting whistles and baiting foul calls. A lot of flops, a lot of extra stuff. Sometimes Wade Taylor IV reminds me of Trae Young with the Atlanta Hawks, the former Sooner. The way he throws his body into people and draws fouls and gets the foul line. Wade Taylor did some of that. Some of the other players exaggerated some contact, I thought, and got some whistles. But Arkansas got the benefit of a lot of whistles. You can't explain 40 free throw attempts any other way. But only 23 of 33. And if you look at the Aggies, when the Aggies were trying to come back, they missed five consecutive free throws down the stretch there. So Arkansas, kind of mirroring what Arkansas did early in the second half. Sometimes it's not just when you fail, but not just how you fail, but when you do it and the timeliness of things. So I thought the Aggies, struggled at the foul line in a stretch where they were trying to get over that hump. And we saw Arkansas finish this game out with a win as partly to do with that. Now, there were a couple of stretches in this game where I thought Ellis was huge. First of all, I thought in the first half, Ellis, got the start. I didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming, but he got the start. Doesn't shock me because nothing's really been working. So you might as well try everybody once or twice and run it back with some guys. Okay, so I'm not shocked by it. I just wouldn't have predicted it. But Ellis has 15 points in this game. Did not shoot well from the field. 3 of 11. He did hit a three on a night where that became a premium for Arkansas relative to the opponent. But all 8 of his free throw attempts, 8 of 8, so 15 points, were 6 huge rebounds in a game where you're getting clobbered. He was arguably Arkansas's best rebounder tonight. I thought he did the best job of attacking the glass. 6 rebounds for Ellis, a couple of assists, and they were big ones. When Arkansas's offense got stagnant in the second half, Ellis did drive And because he was having success drawing fouls and get to the free throw line, he did make a couple of layups. He missed some chippies. But because of that, when the defense collapsed, he kicked out. And they were timely kickouts for threes. One from Devo Davis, one from Tremont Mark. And that was in a second half when Arkansas was really struggling to score. So I thought Ellis, because he was having some scoring success, had a couple of kick-out dimes that helped Arkansas. He probably had 2 or 3 more kick-out passes where Arkansas was unable to knock down open looks. So he had, he might have had more assists in this game. But he also had 3 turnovers. He is not a comfortable lead guard. He still struggles. He has awkward moments, ball handling, getting to spots, playing with pace, getting guys in rhythm. But it's hard to complain about Ellis because this guy hadn't scored in double figures since November 17th. You've got to go back to Arkansas's 3-0 start to the season to find a double-digit scoring game for Ellis. He did not score in the Bahamas, and something interesting was Arkansas went to the Bahamas, went 1-2. Ellis started playing off the bench. His confidence was shot. He couldn't make a shot. He couldn't stay on the court. Didn't score a point in 3 games over there. Arkansas comes home, has a midweek game, a pretty quick turnaround. Midweek game, Musman puts him back in the starting lineup, and though he wasn't lights out against Duke, he did a good job using his quickness, breaking down defenders and setting guys up. He had some scoring in that game. He had some, moments where he helped Arkansas. And in a game where you win your best win of the season against a top 10 ranked Duke team again, number 7 then, back in the top 10 now. This kind of reminded me of that because Ellis has just been kind of persona non grata. He's not been a guy that's played much or done much. Hasn't statistically. He's just been. He came in averaging less than 5 points a game, and so it kind of reminded me of that stretch going from Bahamas to Duke, getting back in the starting lineup and really sparking Arkansas. And I thought we saw that tonight. Beyond Tremont Mark, Ellis to me, and there are other guys that stepped up. I'm going to talk about Chandler Lawson. He fouled out I think it was about. I can't remember what stage of the game it was, but it was in the second half, and he fouls out. I think it was over 6 minutes to go. No, 5:45. Lawson fouls out with 5:45 left. At the time, the Hogs were up by 10 points. But I thought Chandler Lawson got Arkansas off to a fabulous start. Hit the first bucket of the game, the only field goal attempt he was credited with to get Arkansas out to a 2-0. Arkansas would run out to a 17-3 lead. But in doing so, Lawson not only scored that bucket, he had a couple of rebounds, but he had 3 assists. And Arkansas was moving the ball without a lot of dribbling. They were passing it high post, inside and out. If there was a quick dribble by Ellis, I thought Ellis was quicker than A&M's guards. A&M's a physical team, and I don't think their guards are as explosive as some backcourts at Arkansas season. I thought Ellis used his quickness a little bit to penetrate, but I thought also Lawson did a good job, and the ball was moving inside out, side to side. Arkansas had 8 assists on 14 made first half field goals and shot the ball so well, but part of that was the ball movement. Second half, this was a situation where Arkansas didn't. The offense became stagnant. You can credit some to A&M, but I think, this is one of the reasons why, depending upon how you're playing, the offense was so stagnant for most of the second half. I did not like the stall ball offense. And what Musman did was he didn't have Tremont Mark handling the ball for the entire possession. He put him off the ball, free throw line extended. He let Ellis, sometimes Keon Minifield Jr. had to come in because Devo Davis was ejected shortly after Lawson fouled out for a flagrant 2 foul. And so you had Minifield out there. So both of those guys were kind of doing the primary ball handling for the first half of the shot clock. And then they would get the ball kind of mid-post or free throw line extended, get Mark facing the guard play outside, and then get a bounce pass to him and try to ISO him, move other offensive players on the other side of the court and let him go one-on-one. As good as Mark was, it almost cost Arkansas in this game. I think if Arkansas had been a little more rhythm and been playing a little bit more and had a little bit more of a lead there to close out the last 4 minutes or so, maybe that's okay. And it doesn't take Wade Taylor long to close a 10 or 8-point deficit down to a 1-possession game because he's so gifted and at scoring really quickly. He's not a guy that takes a lot of time to get into his. So I thought Arkansas, a lot of fans are not going to be happy with how Arkansas, we've seen so many times that Arkansas's won this year where they built big leads and then had to hang on for dear life. This is another one of those. But now you're in SEC play. It's much tougher in league play than some of the mid-majors that Arkansas struggle with. Even the Duke game, you went back to that. Arkansas was up 14 points in the second half of that game and held on for a 5-point win. I went through the hustle stats, man. I mean, it was ugly, except for the block shots. And again, so many games, the block shots, even though Arkansas has an advantage, it just is not meaningful enough when you're giving up so much more inside at the rim. It's deceiving to say Arkansas is a great rim protection team based on how elite they've been in blocking shots. Because again, they give up a lot around the basket. And there was some of that tonight, especially late. But overall, if it wasn't Wade Taylor, nothing else was really working for A&M. And again, Henry Coleman III did not play tonight. That might have been the difference in a game for the Aggies to pick up their second win. Now both teams 1-3 in league play. Arkansas's got something to build from. You got to start somewhere. Look, let's go back. Let's go back in time. Arkansas 2-4 in SEC play on the first Elite 18, Muss's second season. We don't talk about this enough. I've written about it numerous times, but it's always worth repeating as we kind of stop there. 2-4, they turned around, went on that huge run of winning games. But in the seventh game, it was a home game at Bud Walton Arena against a not very good Auburn team. It was an Auburn team Arkansas actually had beaten in its SEC opener on the road. I think it was a 12-point win, high-scoring game. Not a good Auburn team. I think Auburn was beating Arkansas by 18 or 20 in the first half, something like that. Musselman finally decided to start living more with Jalen Williams and Devo Davis, true freshmen. They played, I think both players played almost every minute of the second half, both of them. And Arkansas came back and won that game and had to hold on for a 1 or 2 point win. I don't remember the final score, but it came down to a possession. That was how that team finally picked itself up. It could have been 2-5 at that point. You just never know. I have said over and over again with this team, the pieces are there. The talent is there. You don't beat Duke. You don't even win a game like this. Yeah, Purdue's a million years ago and it didn't count. But there's some idea here. I mean, even in the Bahamas, Memphis is a very good basketball team. Arkansas and Memphis team that, by the way, common opponent for the Aggies, went into A&M and won on the road against A&M in non-conference. Arkansas lost that game by 5, had a chance to win it. It was a loss. But other than, looking at that Auburn result, Auburn's a great basketball team, probably top 10 worthy. 32-point win, though, at home. That's unexpected. Worst loss ever there. But you got to find a way to move past it. You get back home now. Arkansas is 8-2 in home games this year. We know the 2 losses are to Greensboro, the lone quad 3 loss on the season, and then Auburn. Arkansas hasn't been good away from home. When you start looking at true road record, only 2 road games, back-to-back losses. The 22-point loss against Florida on Saturday was really ugly. This was a much better game for Arkansas. That was a great offensive team, and you're playing on the road. This is not such a good offensive team with but one great player that can burn you and beat you. And it almost happened tonight. Arkansas, I know fans are going to be disappointed in the way Arkansas. You can't truly say you're disappointed in the way it finished because it finished with the biggest fireworks on that Mark Runner. I mean, that's a big-time shot, man. And this guy's been Arkansas's most consistent offensive player all year, the leading scorer on the season. We've seen it time and again. Not a great game at Florida, but 24 points. And on the road, Arkansas's only double-figure score the other night against Georgia. And the Hogs were down 3 with about 6 minutes left or whatever it was. It gave itself a chance. A lot of that was Tremont Mark. Where I think he's picked up his game some is in addition to being able to score, we saw him have a double-double. When Arkansas won 5 out of 6 in that stretch to close out non-conference. He had his first double-double and I remember how many he scored that night, but 11 rebounds, had his first offensive rebounds of the season that night. And he's continued now. He had a game recently where he had, I think it was the 24-point game at Georgia, 7 rebounds to lead the team, 3 blocks, 3 steals, 3 assists. So it's those other things he needs to start doing. And I thought tonight his on-ball defense was better at times, not perfect, but better at multiple times. And those 2 blocks in the second half on Taylor were big because here's a guy now that's caught fire and throwing daggers, and you gotta stop him at some point. You got to stop him, and a couple of times he did. So I'm going to give Mark some respect on the 5 rebounds and 3 blocks tonight. And Ellis, again, you talk about 6 rebounds. For a guy they list at 6'3", if he's I don't know how much more, I don't know how much taller he is than 6'1", if that's a legit 6'3". But you love to see the senior guard, the transfer, have a game like this. Arkansas needed someone to step up. Especially when you look at a game where I thought, Musselman, you saw Mekhi Mitchell play a little bit in the first half, and he gets one of those flagrant fouls. Um, you know, that was a guy that, he got 2 starts in the previous 2 games. He didn't play much. I don't think he played again after that. I need to go back and look at my notes on some of that. I don't know if he got back in the game. But I thought Lawson, we go back to him finishing with the 2 points, 5 rebounds, led Arkansas with 4 assists tonight, 1 block. One of the things I talked about in the last post game was, where did everybody go? Some of these guys, Lawson had been a really good glue guy in preseason and some of the early season stuff, and he's had some decent games this year in non-conference. Conference play, not yet. And this was, even though when you look at it statistically, you say, well, 2 points, 5 rebounds, but the 4 assists and a block on a night where Arkansas did have a block party. It's the only hustle category Arkansas won. Everything else was major advantage Auburn. And so you were a little better shooting from the field, a little better shooting from 3, and better at the free throw line. And you just had to have maybe some area other than percentages where you were tougher. And I thought some of those blocks were big. And I thought a couple of times, when I go back in the second half, how big was Ellis? Somebody other than Taylor hit a 3. It was Washington in a corner 3. A&M got within 60-57 there in that fourth quarter. And then Ellis drove into the paint, got a little layup off the front of the rim, off the front part of the rim, banked it in. Arkansas went up 62-57. The Hogs get a stop. And then it was Ellis driving deep into the paint and then kicking out to Mark, kind of on that between the top and the left part of above the break on that left wing, and he hits a 3. So immediately Arkansas spreads that lead back out by 8 points after it was a 1 possession lead, 65-57. And then A&M scored the next 3 points to get within 65-60. Ellis then made 2 of 2 free throws to put Arkansas up 67-60. After another stop, another Ellis drive, he kicks it out to the right side. Devo gets a 3. And now it's a 10-point lead, 70-60 with 6:03 left. Again, I mentioned it earlier. I didn't go through the specifics on that, but I said there were a couple of times where A&M chipped away down in that fourth quarter, and Ellis was a big spark in helping Arkansas expand back to 8-point lead, 10-point lead. And it was just enough cushion in a night where Arkansas really, I thought, faltered down the stretch, trying to play that 1-on-5 game and milk the clock down. It almost cost them, but Mark was so good throughout this game. And there was a stretch there where I really thought this was going to come down, and it did. There was the second half. I mean, it really came down to Tremont Mark, mano a mano with Wade Taylor, the fourth, except for those little cluster plays by Ellis. Those cluster plays by Ellis late in the second half was that other guy, that sort of Robin to Tremont Mark's Batman. And I don't think A&M had another guy really step up like that. I mean, Garcia did finish with 10 points and 12 rebounds. Most of those were kind of put back opportunistic situations. Those count too. But I thought Ellis was the third best player in this game when you look at it from, one team needing that extra guy, and Arkansas had it. And then the other thing is, I mentioned Lawson, glue guy tonight. We need to talk about some more guys. Trevor Brazil didn't shoot well again. He's been efficient all year on very low volume. Not very impactful defensively typically. Struggles on the glass, struggles with physicality. In a game like this, he really, really struggled dealing with the way A&M so active, aggressive, and physical. But he did finish with 8 points because he didn't shoot well, 1 of 5 from the field, but 6 of 8 at the foul line. Here's a guy shooting, it's a career high, but it's still under 70% on the season at the foul line. I think around 69%. So he goes 75% at the line tonight, 6 of 8. And I thought that was big for Arkansas. They needed his 8 points. He did have 5 rebounds and a block. And so, Brazil was on the court. He had some, and he did have a couple of defensive rebounds late that helped Arkansas. Devo Davis was 7 points. That 3 in the second half was big for him. He did have 6 rebounds, so he matched Ellis with a big game on the glass. He had 1 assist and 0 turnovers. Devo played 33 minutes before getting ejected. Now, I'm going to talk about some of these plays. Was that a correct call, the flagrant two? I personally don't think it's a correct call. And here's why. Devo Davis is a kind of guy that is a high stepper, long strider. The closer he gets to the basket, he does it on his bounce and his dribble, and he has a scissor kick when he goes up to shoot. Okay. The other thing is his leg and his foot was already fully extended when the defender moved in with his crotch into his foot. Now, is that an offensive foul? Maybe. I think it's an offensive foul, common foul at most. I don't even think it should have been a flagrant one. That's my opinion. It's unfortunate where the foot made contact, but I didn't think that should have been a flagrant two. Now, I don't know if anybody saw it any other way, and based on the replays I was watching that SEC Network showed 4 or 5 times, a couple of different angles, that's how I saw it. If anybody saw anything extra, but his foot was already extended. And I thought another call, Wade Taylor does a great job of he hit a 3 and he was trying to draw a foul, but he kicked his left leg back and made contact. It was, I think, with Minifield, who was guarding rather closely off a screen. That in the NBA, if they review that, that's an offensive foul and there's no 3-point basket. Wade Taylor also crumpled to the ground a couple of times after there was really incidental contact and drew whistles. And I thought, again, there's that Trae Young element to him. Smart, I guess, if you get away with it, obviously. But the one on Brazil on the offensive rebound, there was absolutely 0 contact when Brazil got the ball, offensive rebound. Yes, Taylor was inside of him, but there was no contact. And it was when Brazil was coming to the floor when Taylor threw his body down and his body created the contact. To me, I think the announcers on the game, Missouri John Sunvold, who seemed very disappointed that A&M wasn't able to win tonight, by the way. I'm going to throw that in there. That sounds homer, but it did kind of seem that way. But even he said he thought that maybe should have been, maybe a no call. And there might have been some times Arkansas got bailed out with some bump fouls that really didn't change the complexion of the play. And Arkansas got to the free throw line, whereas their offense had really started to struggle in the second half. But I thought some of these calls, there was another call when Lawson extended his arms to the chest of an A&M player, and there wasn't a lot of contact there. It just wasn't a lot. Maybe it had been worthy of the foul, but the A&M player threw his head back immediately and made it look as though, I guess, that he got contacted higher, and it was almost like a whiplash type of thing, or I guess whiplash is side to side. But either way, I mean, to me, that's a part of a flop and could be. There was a play where Ellis he went inside and was turning and twisting and trying to pass out, and his elbow might have contacted the A&M player. It wasn't clear to me that it did, but I don't know if that was an exaggerated situation where the player went down. It might have been legitimate. But when the other stuff I'm seeing is going on, I'm sitting there thinking, man, these guys it seems to me they're taught to exaggerate things and try to sell things. Yeah, I see some of the comments here. I think most of the comments agree that the flagrant foul, the flagrant two. So I don't know. I don't think that was a flagrant. If you know how Devo plays, he's got the scissor legs, and you got to be careful with that. You can get a legitimate foul call for doing that, but it wasn't intentional to kick somebody. His leg was already fully extended. His foot was as far as it was ever going to go. And the defender moved right into it, into the sweet spot. I have sympathy for a guy, but I don't got enough sympathy to start rearranging how the game should be played and called because of that. Go put some dirt on it and suck it up. And the refs, to me, after reviewing that, got it wrong. All right, let's get back to some of this. We really went through the stats. I mentioned some of those key stretches. When he went down the stretch of the game in the last minute 25, I mentioned Mark going 2 of 4 at the foul line. Taylor did tie the game, by the way, after the first 1 of 2 trip at 74 all with just under a minute to go, about 51 seconds to play. Then Mark with 27.8 seconds was fouled, went 1 of 2 again. Arkansas's up a point. And then Arkansas had a really interesting situation. They put Leighton Blocker in. It's not the first time we've seen Musselman put him in for a defensive possession at the end of the game when he really hasn't played. He did it against Purdue in both halves all the way back in the exhibition season when both teams were trying to win what was a crazy, wild, great atmosphere at Bud Walton Arena in an exhibition game. I know. But blocker comes in, and there was a missed shot by A&M. I think Taylor missed a three, hit the right side of the rim, and was going toward the right baseline. And once again, A&M was tracking down an offensive rebound, and blocker got a hand on the ball. It was and it went out of bounds with about 18 seconds left. It was initially called A&M's ball. They go back and review it. They can review those things inside a certain time frame, maybe under a minute or 2 minutes on those out of bounds plays, and they changed the call. It was Arkansas's ball. Blocker did a good job of deflecting it off the A&M player. Those effort plays by blocker, you'll never question those. But Arkansas gets possession. And I mentioned Mark. I said he had 2 trips of 1 to 2 free throws. He actually had 3. So 3 of 6 in the final 1:25 because A&M fouled him with 14.6 seconds left. Once again, he goes 1 of 2. The lead's now only 76-74. So in those consecutive possessions after A&M tied at 74 all, he goes 2 of 4 at the line in that stretch for only a 2-point lead. And that's when Taylor rose up and made that wild 3 with 7.67 seconds left. Now A&M has its first lead at 77-76. I really was concerned about how Arkansas was going to finish the game on that final possession, because here's a team that's not been playing with a lot of belief. And one thing you've got to do, you started the game right. You didn't start the game right in some of these other games where you're shooting threes and settling. You started the game right by going inside. That's how you got up 17-3. You started pressuring the paint and the rim. And I thought when Arkansas got a little hot from 3, they started getting a little attracted starting that second half, shooting threes and not attacking and using ball movement to pick apart A&M a little bit and get closer to the rim. All right. This final play was executed brilliantly. You don't have a whole lot. You don't have time to move the ball around. Get it to the guy who's hot and let him go to work. And Mark put pressure on A&M's defense. The Aggies didn't want to foul because you're only up 1 and you're not going to send a guy to the line. So you got to retreat and do your best that you can to defend. And I thought Mark put pressure on the rim, got in the paint, drove his man, got his man backpedaling, and got enough separation and cushion to have a nice little, he took a little steam off the drive, just a change of pace to pull up and get that little runner to go. And you got it close range. It was nothing but net. He was going a little bit left, which he's a lefty, so that was right to a good spot for him. So what a way to finish the game. And when you're 0-3 and you've had so many problems like Arkansas's had this year, 3 losses out of 4 in November, the awful loss against Oklahoma on a neutral court, in December, so many games where Arkansas just was trying to snatch, defeat from the jaws of victory, it felt like, in some of those non-conference games against some of those mid-majors. To finish like this is big, and this could be a building block. I talked about 3 years ago, the first Elite Eight team, how that team started 2-4, and how it started that winning streak, the 7th game of league play. Wasn't easy against a not very good Auburn team. We can discuss how good A&M is. The record's not great. The net's pretty good. The quad 1 win resume is pretty good, but they were without Henry Coleman III. So how good was A&M tonight? Doesn't matter. You got to find a way to win. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You got to get off the mat. And Arkansas did that. This could be something to build on. This is still a team that's very, very bad defensively in a lot of ways and in hustle plays in a lot of ways. But tonight, just like it was when you won 5 out of 6, your defensive field goal percentages were excellent. Whether that's more on A&M just being a bad shooting team, which it's proven to be coming into tonight. It wasn't like Arkansas's defense took down a really good offensive team. But it was also an A&M team that caught fire and had a big scoring night in its previous game against Kentucky. So who's to say that, some of this wasn't on Arkansas just doing a little bit better job than it had been and getting off to a great start. I thought the start was everything. Arkansas just hasn't started games well, even a lot of them that they've found ways to win. And I thought the start was everything tonight. 17-3, you go up 20 a couple of times. Let's look at some of this. Arkansas was up 30-10. Jeremiah Davenport, who I didn't talk about, 8 points tonight, and a rebound and a block. He was one of the guys that had a block in the second half when A&M was trying to get to the basket. He rose up in transition and just tattooed it. You'd like to see some of these blocks stay in. Arkansas will get them and go the other way. But Arkansas is not great in those 50-50 ball situations, so it's almost better if you're not good there, if you do at least stop a shot even if you swat it out of bounds, the other team still retains possession. At least it's not a live ball putback, and they've still got to work for a shot. Either way, I thought Davenport's first half hit a couple of threes, but the first one put Arkansas up, or his first one put Arkansas up 27-9. So he basically hit back to back. Had another one that put Arkansas up 30-10. So that was the first 20-point lead. A&M chipped away a little bit, and Arkansas went back up by 20, I think, at another point. Maybe, 34-14, and that was on an Ellis layup. So we've seen Davenport give Arkansas some energy. Had a really good first half against Florida, and then that was a throwaway game, but he had a good first half. I think he had 13 points and 3 assists in that. Had a good second half relative, trying to help Arkansas in tandem with Mark against Georgia. Did some good things in that game. Really rebounded the ball well in that game. So it's good to see Davenport again, help and contribute. 8 points in a game like this is big. So we went through this. I mean, you start looking at Mark, Ellis, Brazil, Davenport, Lawson, and then I think to some extent even Devo, because the 3 was huge down the stretch, and then the 6 rebounds matched what Ellis did there. So when you start really looking at the key guys, that was it. And it was more than just 1 or 2. This time Arkansas had more. But it was 2 when you look at it from a point production. And that's advantage Arkansas. When you look at Taylor with 41 points, Garcia with 10, that's the double figure scoring for A&M. That's 51 points. When you look at Mark and Ellis, 35 and 15, it's almost a wash, 50 points there. It was these other guys. You start filling in the margins with Brazil with 8, Davenport with 8, Davis with 7. And I go back to Lawson again, 2 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and the 1 block. But those 4 assists were big. That was half of Arkansas's assists there until he was out of the game. I think he, at that point, represented half of the assists on that. This is one area that Arkansas also won that I haven't even gotten to yet. Arkansas had 10 assists tonight. That's not great, but that's half of your field goal production, 20 field goals. So you want to assist on at least half of your made field goals. Arkansas did that. A&M only had 5 assists. We've seen Arkansas so many times, 5, 6, 7 assists. It was Tremont Mark, just one on everybody, getting points, and you're trying to survive that way, and it just wasn't a good formula. That's what A&M had a diet of tonight. Wade Taylor getting 41, hero ball. Not a lot of great ball movement for A&M. They get it done in other ways, though. When you look at these shooting percentages, you start to realize when you get to a 78, 77 game, there must have been a lot of free throw shooting, and that's what it was. And Arkansas was just better there. I think that was key. Plus 8 in made free throws. I mean, when you make 4 fewer field goals than your opponent, who, by the way, shot 23 more. I can't believe I waited to talk about that till now. 45 minutes in. I meant to talk about that sooner, and I went blank on it when I was going through the stats. 23 more attempts for A&M. That's how they made only 4 more, though. And Arkansas was better at the foul line and a little bit better from 3. Actually, a lot better when you look at the percentage, but 1 more make. So A&M had to take a lot and still checked up, took 10 more threes and made 1 fewer. So Arkansas was just good enough shooting relative to the opponent. And then, and especially at the free throw line, where I think that was obviously the biggest advantage and cushion there. Better in the assist department, which I think matters. I think it matters because, some of those shots in that early run where Arkansas jumped out to such a big lead were easy. Arkansas got some nice looks and some wide open looks. And in a game that's grindy in the second half, and it became just a grind thing for both teams, and one-on-one with Mark and Wade trading shots. Now, you can look back at that first half and say, well, thank God for that. And thank God for that good ball movement and some of those easy looks. Arkansas's had too many games and too many total games, 40 minutes, where nothing came easy, no easy looks. At least you had a half of that. That's probably what was part of the big difference in how you translate a win versus having an outcome with another loss. So that's great. Now, Arkansas's got another home game against a good South Carolina team on Saturday. That's what's up next. The Razorbacks are going to host the Gamecocks. It's a noon tip-off at Bud Walton Arena, early game. This is a chance for Arkansas to build on some success. Play with confidence. You've won a game in league play. This is how Arkansas's teams have done it in the past. Remember, 2-4 3 years ago. Arkansas was 0-3 out of the gates 2 years ago, mirrored what this team had done. And that team had lost 2 out of 3 to finish non-conference play. Unlike what this team, won 5 of 6. That team had lost 2 of 3. 22-point beat down against OU, and that loss to Hofstra in North Little Rock. So had lost 5 out of 6. That team turned things around. Last year's team 1-5 start. Now that team didn't really start, didn't turn things around to the tune of what the previous 2 teams did in finishing really strong in league play. I mean, after that 2-4 start on the first Elite 8 team, Arkansas won the rest of its SEC games and its first SEC tournament game, I think 12 in a row, and finished second in the league, game and a half behind Alabama. The following year, Arkansas started 0-3 and ends up finishing in the top 4 in the league. So really had a really good, strong record to finish league play. Last year, Arkansas started 1-5, went 7-5 the rest of the way. So you still had a losing record, 8-10 for 10th place in the league, but you had to do that to have an NCAA tournament resume. And because Arkansas's non-conference was so good last year, even though they had those rough patches in there, started 1-5, finished 0-3 in the SEC, but had a 5-game winning streak in there, and overall was 7-5 to finish things out. That was just good enough to have an NCAA tournament resume. This team's far from an NCAA tournament resume, but if you start adding some of these wins, there's going to be a lot of quad 1 win opportunities on the horizon, but you got to start stacking wins. Tonight was the first quad 2 win. Saturday, you get an opportunity against a good South Carolina team that can help your resume. First, by mostly, you just got to start winning games. And so Arkansas can do that. Am I ready to predict a win? Hell no, not there yet. And I think it is, it is troubling that Arkansas still struggles to put teams away. Builds leads and can't put teams away. And this could have easily been a loss tonight. But if you're a Razorback fan, you're glad it's not, and it is something to build on. Again, we've seen previous Eric Musselman teams figure out ways to do it. I don't think this team has the ingredients from a toughness standpoint that most of his previous teams had, and he just had to get it out of guys to get on the same page and to buy in. I talked so much about buy-in and lack of it in the previous post-game. Tonight I saw a lot of buy-in, but I saw a lot of bad habits rear their head again in the second half, and guys, to me, looking like they're unsure again. And I think that's tough. Davis is constantly doing something stupid at critical times. I mean, again, I went through that play. I think it's always the potential for an offensive foul when you kick your legs. But Devo does it all the time. He's when he's in transition, he starts high stepping and has those scissor kicks on his dribble, and then he'll do it again when he goes up to shoot. And so is it the smartest thing to do? No, but it's not egregious unless you're kicking into someone who's already there and it looks intentional from that standpoint. His leg was already fully extended when the defender moved into it. So you could say, well, if he'd cut down on some of that crap, you wouldn't have to worry about that. I mean, that's a fair point to make. I just didn't think that, I don't think the angles I saw were the greatest. From the angles I saw, it looked like his leg and foot was fully extended and the defender moved into it. I have no problem, honestly, with it even being a common foul maybe on Devo. I don't have a problem with it if they determine, that the guy moving into him created contact, and that was a defensive foul. I didn't think that was a very likely outcome, but I think those were the two best options relative to a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2, and they loaded him up with the worst of it. All right, so we went through all of that. And look, 10-7, 1-3 is what it is. You can only go from here now. I do still think there's a lot of talent on this team, individual talent. It's not a tough team. I think that's what separates this one from the other ones that figured things out and turned it around. And when I say tough, I'm talking still some mental fragileness, but a lot of physical, and then the hustle plays tell everything. Arkansas continues to just get destroyed in these hustle categories, or not winning enough of them, mostly getting destroyed. And that just tells you about, to me, the toughness of a team. At some point, if Trevor Brazile ever resembles the first team All-SEC pick that he came in the season as, And look, he's not even as good as he was in the first 8 games last year before he got hurt. His numbers aren't as good. His efficiency's not as good. And he was looked to me to be a tougher player than he is now. Now, so where do the injuries play into that? People are not going to accept that as an excuse forever, but it might be a real thing. It may be part of why he seems so tentative. I don't know. Devo Davis is not the same player he was. He's got career lows and everything, but tonight in a game like that, I'm going to give him credit for the 7 points, especially that big three that helped Arkansas maintain 6 big rebounds, 1 assist, and 0 turnovers. Davis is having a career low in turnovers. Part of that's probably because he's driving the ball less and taking fewer shots, taking fewer chances on his attacking the paint and some of the stuff he used to do. So you got to live. There's some good in there. You'd like to see more production from him, though. But what he gave tonight was a lot better than the 0 points in 11 minutes at Florida. How many wins do you think we can get in the next 5 games? Man, I don't know. How many can Arkansas get? I mean, at this point where you're 1-3 in league play, you'd like to figure out a way to at least do better than 500 and go to 3-2. You'd like to figure out a way to do better than that, but if you could get to 3-2, no one's going to be really happy with that. Not with the projections for this team. I think Arkansas can win Saturday. That gets you to 2-3 in league play. And then if you split the next, I got to go back and look at the road games and all that. That mix into there. What's up with Battle? He didn't even see the floor. Doghouse. Well, I'm not going to get into that greatly here. I will say that he's a guy that's not, so many guys have had problems on the defensive end. He's one of them. And also, I think from an offensive standpoint, it's just not been there for him lately. You'd like to see him get back on track. I think Arkansas is going to need him again. They're going to need Caleb Battle. I don't think we've seen the last of him. Just like tonight, Ellis proved we hadn't seen the last of him. I was starting to wonder. It's very interesting to me, the dynamic with Ellis, because he is not a lead guard. He's just not. But he played a lot of that tonight. You could say valiantly, 2 assists, 3 turnovers. The 2 assists were huge. But to me, it's his scorer instincts that make plays off of. He's got a scorer's mentality. When he's driving to spots, he's really looking for a way to finish. And he struggled shooting tonight, 3 of 11. But he got to the foul line, and he made all of them, 8 of 8. That was huge, 15 points. But off a couple of those drives, when the defenders collapsed, he did kick the ball out for threes, and he might have had more assists. Let's give him some credit. Some guys miss some open shots that he created off the driving kick out. So you could say, well, isn't that what a point guard does? Yeah, point guards play with pace. They get to spots. They get guys the ball on time, on target, and they just kind of lead the game on the floor. That's not really his strength. It's not really his strength, but his scorer instincts help him make plays. And tonight it was another one of those situations where Arkansas needed someone to step up, and he did that. And the rebounds again. I'm going to go back to that. This is an A&M team that's kicking Arkansas's ass up and down the court on the glass, and he went in there for some tough ones. They weren't like long rebounds that ricocheted out to him. There might have been 1, maybe 2 of those. Remember one, I think Devo tapped it out for an offensive rebound. Arkansas only had on the offensive glass, got beat 19-3. I think one of Arkansas's offensive rebounds was a Devo loose ball. He tapped it. Ellis ran it down. Sometimes you can give the guy that taps it credit, but the ball was still loose. And so I think it was correct to give Ellis the offensive rebound. But so most of his, though, he went in traffic and got him. I tip a hat to that guy, man. What a game for him. What a game for the Hogs to get from him in 31 minutes. Anybody see that coming? 54 minutes in, I guess when the Hogs win, we go long on HogvilleNet YouTube live post-game analysis. Arkansas beats Texas A&M 78-77. Man, I got to get that score right in my head. It was so back and forth there at the end that I almost flubbed that one. Tremont Mark with the big runner. I thought, man, what a brilliant way to finish that game, because I thought the execution obviously worked, but the idea of getting it to him and letting him go, that was the only chance Arkansas really had, because he'd been efficient all night driving to the basket. It's what he does. And that's what Arkansas needed. You didn't need you didn't need someone else trying to bring it up. You didn't have enough time to play off someone else through him like you'd done possession after possession in that game with Ellis and Minifield, handling early and then get into him in, late shot clock to go to work. So I thought it was great to get the ball inbounded to him and let him just drive his man all the way in. He did not settle for a three. He did not settle for a tougher pull up, 15, 16, 17, 18-foot jumper because he's a little nervous about clock. He knew what he had in front of him. He probably had his eye on the clock. I would love to hear. I've got to go back and look at the post-game stuff and the press conference and the quotes and the talking points. I want to know what he saw in terms of clock. But he played it just brilliantly. And then the finish is always brilliant when you make it. But the Razorbacks, again, this could be the game. This could be it. Someone asked me what they're going to do in their next 5 games. I just don't know. I said in the previous post-game that I think Arkansas probably at minimum needs to go 10-5 after an 0-3 start, maybe 11-4 going in the SEC tournament, where then you don't know what your resume looks like compared to other teams. And are you on the bubble still needing to do work in the tournament? Do you have enough quad 1 wins to give yourself a, I really think based on the body of work and where the net is now, Arkansas's probably got to go 11-4. Well, now 10-4 after winning tonight. Probably got to go 10-4 the rest of the way. That would put them at 11-7 in league play. That'd be a really good league record. And you got to figure Arkansas's racked up some quad 1 wins in there to do something like that. I think what's problematic is even if you win 10 of your next 14 games to get to 11-7 in league play, if 4 of those are in your round robins against Missouri and LSU, and then you get Georgia back at home, it's not a great net team. I mean, if half of those wins are there, you need to make sure the other half are quad 1 wins. I mean, Arkansas is going to need to kind of pull even somehow or get close in those quad games because that it's got a long way to go. So I'm not sure. Someone asked me a little something, shorter term, not long term. That's long term. Shorter term in the next 5 games. Yeah, can Arkansas? What could the record be in these next 5 games? I mean, I think it's feasible in the next 5, maybe you get to Kentucky at home. That's a really good team, a team that A&M just beat, and then a team that lost to another common opponent, Wilmington, lost to Wilmington on its home court. Arkansas beat Wilmington by 16. You don't ever want to look at scores like that and compare teams because there's not a lot of value there, but at least it shows you this is not an invincible Kentucky team. And Arkansas round robin home and away, but the first game will be at the end of this month at home against Kentucky. But if you could find a way to pick up that, I mean, I can't make a prediction of what Arkansas is going to do in the next 5. I'm kind of, Kevin, our returning players are the ones getting technical fouls. That's just stupid stuff hurting the team. Right. I mean, it was Mekhi Mitchell and Devo Davis. And again, Devo's done some stuff. He's done some stuff. I'm not sure that I agree with this one though. And if I had a better angle on it that showed me, that he continued to extend the foot once the player moved into him, I might just say, well, that's the next thing. And that's dirty. If that were the case, that's just downright dirty. You don't, I always say you don't mow another man's lawn. You certainly, you certainly don't go there. But I don't think that was the case. From my vantage point and the way I know how Devo plays, I thought his leg and foot for the 3rd or 4th time I'm repeating it now was already extended and the player moved into it. It was an unfortunate thing. And I didn't have a problem with an offensive foul call, but I think it was a common foul at most either way. Not obviously it'd only be a common foul on the defender if they want to do that. Our lack of physicality will keep us from dancing, especially in the paint. That's a fair assessment. I'm not going to jump off here and say, well, this is it. This is the turning point. I can't do that. I haven't said that. I've just gone back in previous years and explained what Arkansas did and said they've done it. It's looked pretty bleak at times, but I've also said this team doesn't compare in toughness and some other things. It's just so bad in those elements of games, 50-50 balls, offensive rebound, generating turnovers, full games of really good ball movement. I mean, as bad as Arkansas is in hustle plays, if it was more efficient offensively consistently, they might be closer in games and give themselves a chance. But when you can't gut out the hustle plays consistently, to me, even if you find a way to shoot well and stay close, you might still end up losing a lot of games because the other team's just making those tough man plays, which is what Arkansas's DNA became the previous 3 seasons. They weren't out of the world great defensively until they turned things around and got really good on that end. Top 10, top 11, top 17 defensively the last 3 years. And that's where you started seeing those close, grinded out SEC games, end of games. Arkansas's finding ways to win 50-50 balls, to gut out physical play, to be the smarter team, to execute at the free throw line. This team has not done that. Now, Arkansas's team last year wasn't great shooting from at the free throw line. This one's actually a little better. But overall, those previous 3 teams were just a lot tougher. And so was there toughness tonight? You gave up a 20-point lead. But I went through some of those late stretches, and I talked about the offense. But I also talked about some of those block shots. Those are hustle plays too. Those added up. Mark. Brazil got one. They credited one for Brazil's lone block against Taylor on a drive. I mentioned Davenport blocking an Aggie in transition. That might have been a transition point. I mean, the Aggies dominated transition, 16-4. Steals, 5-1. Turnovers, 8-2. Offensive rebounds, 19-3. Second chance points, 25-9. Points in the paint, 28-22. A&M owned all of it except blocks, 9-3. And I thought some of those blocks were critical stops defensively for Arkansas when A&M was making that run. And then on offense, as stagnant as it was in the second half, those plays by Ellis and that stretch I talked about in the final 6 minutes were huge. So it wasn't just Tremont Mark with the cape on tonight. Ellis had the Robin cape on. He was in costume. He was Robin tonight. Mark was Batman, and Taylor tried to play Superman. Did he not? I mean, that guy is a fantastic offensive player. I don't know if there's a place for him in the NBA. He's been a guy that's been there, it seems like, forever. And he's been a guy that's hurt Arkansas every time these teams play. By the way, A&M, I think, had won 3 out of the last 4 matchups between these two teams, or maybe 4 out of the last 5. But Arkansas, under Musman, has not lost to the Aggies in Fayetteville. In fact, you've got to go back to the 18-19 season. That was Mike Anderson's last season coaching the Razorbacks that A&M won in Fayetteville, 7-point win. Early in SEC play that year, Arkansas actually beat A&M on the road, so they split that year. And I think prior to that might be A&M's only win in Fayetteville. I've got to double check that. It may be A&M's only win in Fayetteville since joining the SEC. I got to go back and look at that. Arkansas's been really good against the Aggies at home. I didn't bury the lead tonight. We went through most of that, but a lot of the big talking points I got to late. One of those being that the Aggies took 74 field goals, 23 more than Arkansas. To me, that's a big deal. And it continues to be a problem for Arkansas. That was even more magnified. And again, people are asking, how do you project the next 5 games? I mean, I could see Arkansas losing 5. I could see Arkansas doing as well, maybe as am I going to say I could then see Arkansas win the next 5? No. I'd be more inclined to say 3-2, maybe a ceiling of 4-1. But 0-5, I think 0-5 would be more likely than 5-0. Anyone says, duh. I mean, they just came off 0-3. So I'm not at a place where I have the confidence to predict any handful of games or more where Arkansas's got a winning record in that stretch. It's not there yet. Beat South Carolina, who I think Arkansas can get to a 2-0 run here this week and beat South Carolina at home on Saturday. Then we can start talking a little bit about looking past that game and start chalking up some of this stuff. What does it look like? But I think Arkansas needs a little more momentum, especially after hanging on again. We've done so many times this season. All right, I'm an hour and 4 minutes in. I've kind of lost my mind tonight on this one, going over. Usually I've had some hour plus, I guess. It's a win. We'll stay up late. It was already, we're after midnight now. So I've brought us into Wednesday, midweek, hump day, as they say. Arkansas Razorbacks, 78-77 over Texas A&M. Arkansas now 1-3 in league play. Both teams 10-7 overall. Both teams 1-3 in league play. A&M was shorthanded. No Henry Coleman III tonight. Doesn't matter. Arkansas needed that win. It was a great victory because of how Arkansas didn't allow itself to slide to 0-4 after finally falling behind for the first time in the closing seconds. So I think it's a great victory for no other reason than that. It's a quad 2 win. I mean, this is an A&M team. If it gets things on a roll and gets on a run and gets things figured out and ever works its way back in the top 30 net, this will count as a quad one win. We know Arkansas's got one against Duke, 5 quad one losses. Someone asked me my opinion on something that faded off, so I missed that. Maybe they'll pop back on here before, because I'm about to sign off. I need to go see about getting some quotes in the game story and a lot more game details. I did have an article out on HogvilleNet that I tweeted out a link to that, just moments after the game ended. But I've got to go back and backfill the article and add quotes. I'm so interested to see the post game comments from Musselman. Kevin, your opinion on Blocker? Yeah, Blocker's the toughest guy on the team. I've said that before. He is the toughest guy on this basketball team. He is a freshman who makes freshman mistakes. He's not a perimeter shooter. He's had his troubles finishing layups. He gets overzealous sometimes and, have some bad fouls. You got to live with some of that. I thought he finished the Florida game right. He was Arkansas's best player in that game. I thought he and Pinion. But I thought Blocker, 14 points to lead the team. It's a bit of a, you wonder how meaningful was it, because Arkansas was really knocked out pretty early in that second half and most of his production came late. But look, he started making his layups. He made 5 of his last 6 free throw attempts after going 1 of 4. He's just got to get better in those things. He's going to, because of his activity, he's going to draw fouls and get free throw opportunities. As a guard, you've got to knock him down at a high clip. Made his final 5 of 6, but overall 6 of 10, 60%, not good enough. But he's a guy that's going to go in for a team that desperately needs more hustle, more 50-50 ball wins, toughness. He's a guy that brings it. He's not going to help your front line, which is sorely missing that. I mean, that goes without saying. But he helps you when you don't have much of that anywhere. So I think he's the toughest guy on the team. I think he projects well in a career on the Division I, high major Division I level. We'll see how it works here at Arkansas. After he was a box score +2 in his 25 minutes against Florida. Again, you have to take it with a grain of salt because Arkansas was already out of the game. The game changes when you're not playing to win, when there's not a win opportunity at that point. The complexion of it changes, but it was still, what was put in front of him, he handled and did well. And, I think to me, in some programs and some systems and some situations, he's earned more. We didn't see that tonight. But Arkansas had a great game plan, obviously. You can't argue with the way the team started. And you look at the second half, there was a lot of letdown in stages. That's obvious. When you lead by 20 points twice in the first half, and you're up 14 at the break, and you even had a double-digit lead with about 6 minutes to go, only 10 points. But A&M just kept putting pressure on Arkansas with all the hustle play wins, and the Hogs got stagnant offense. But I think a guy like Blocker, the more he plays, the more he helps you. We haven't seen Keon Minifield, after being great once he got eligible to finish out non-conference play. We've not seen him yet turn it on or be effective outside of the first half against Auburn. He had a pretty good first half against Auburn when Arkansas was up by a point in the under 4-minute timeout. And he assisted the ball in that game, so he finished with a double-digit scoring game against Auburn, but since that point hasn't been greatly effective. But he did hit Arkansas's first three of the game. I think A&M started 0 of 14 before Taylor hit one in that first half. I mean, the Aggies were just dreadful offensively, but, Minifield did hit a 3 there. So, he finished with 3 points. And for a guy like Lawson, again, only 2 points, but the 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. I thought overall he was, again, looked like that glue guy to me in his minutes. He did foul out with 5:45 to go. And Devo's flagrant 2 came with 4:41. So Arkansas finished the game, and he had 6 rebounds up at that point and 7 points. It's conceivable that Devo might have got to double-digit scoring, might have gotten to the foul line himself, and we don't know. Might have added a rebound or 2 in there. Very glad the Hogs won. Do you think Brazil? These fade off so fast. We're almost an hour and 10 minutes in. All right, guys, signing off. Going to go work on the wrap up the game story. Appreciate everyone joining me on here on HogvilleNet YouTube Live post-game analysis. Arkansas 78, Texas A&M 77. Signing off. Love your work, Kevin. Thanks. Thank you for that compliment. I read one more. Brazil, yeah, Brazil. Someone's commenting that Brazil hasn't been effective as we thought he would this year. I talked a little bit about it. I wonder still knee, ankle. He's he'll make some wild plays. He'll have a putback slam, or long stride for a dunk. He'll wow you 2 or 3 times a game, and then for too many stretches, he's just sometimes invisible defensively, playing through physicality. Offensively, he doesn't take enough shots. He's been inefficient in the shots he's taken lately, which makes it even worse. But tonight, I'm going to give him some credit. He did have a couple or 3 rebounds late in the game when he played most of the game, not getting on the glass. He did make 6 of 8 at the line, which is better than his season average percentage. TB needs to stop swatting and learn to stay on his feet. Yeah, he gets off balance. He does a lot of ball watching. There's a lot of stuff that needs to improve there. All right, I really am signing off, guys. Love being with you. I don't know if we'll have a pregame on Saturday because we got a noon tip-off. We'll definitely have a postgame, but until then, I'll see you then.